Welcome, everyone. Before we begin Phase 2, I just want to remind everyone that you should stay hydrated. There are water stations in the area, and you should be able to cool off indoors. If anyone's not feeling well, please let a public safety officer know. Please turn off all cell phones. There's a professional photographer who will be taking photographs of the graduates as they cross the stage. Therefore, please take photographs from your seat only. Please do not block any aisles, including the aisles behind the seating areas, as this will create a fire hazard and will obstruct the view of others in attendance. Thank you for your cooperation. Please now welcome the graduates of the class of 2026, along with faculty members representing biology, chemistry, earth and climate sciences, environmental studies, and physics and astronomy. Welcome, friends, welcome, family, welcome, faculty and staff, and welcome to the graduates of the class of 2026. I now call to order this commencement ceremony for the departments of Biology, Chemistry, Earth and Climate Sciences, Physics and Astronomy, and the Environmental Studies program. At this time, I would like to introduce the faculty members and officials sitting on stage. Faculty and officials, as your name is read, please stand. Audience members, please hold your applause until the last name is read. Oh yeah, feel free to sit down. It wasn't on this. Please hold your applause until the last name is read. I will give you a signal when it's time to applaud. Jonah Bloch Johnson, Earth and Climate Sciences. Lauren Crow, Biology. Frank David, Biology. Ben Davies, Environmental Studies. Luke Davis, Chemistry. Sarah Gomez, Director and Professor of Environmental Studies. David Hammer, Physics and Astronomy. Sarah Hengel, Biology. Eric Hai, Chemistry. Fatima Hussein, Biology. Rebecca Jackson, Earth and Climate Sciences. Karen Kaczynski, Environmental Studies. Yushan Lin, Dean of Academic Affairs and Professor of Chemistry. Danilo Marchesini, Dean of Research and Professor of Physics and Astronomy. David Martin, Physics and Astronomy. Helen McCreary, Biology. Kate Merkin, Biology. Sergey Merkin, Biology. Colin Oriens, Chair and Professor of Biology. Duran Pamuk Turner, Chemistry and today's Reader of Names. Rebecca Scheck, Chair and Professor of Chemistry. Philip Starks, Biology. Barry Trimmer, Biology. Eric Teitel, Biology. Arthur Utz, Chemistry. Benjamin Wolf, Biology. Kelly McLaughlin, Biology. Alexandra Thorne, Environmental Studies. And myself, Mitch McVeigh, Professor of Biology. And I will be your Master of Ceremonies for today's celebration. Okay, if there's anyone that I forgot, please stand up. Apologies in advance. Nobody? Yes. These faculty members and officials, and many others who could not attend today's celebration, have worked tirelessly to provide these students the best education possible. Please join me in a round of applause to acknowledge their efforts. Now I would like to call Dean Yushan Lin to the podium. Dean Lin, as the official host of this celebration, I invite you to address the graduates and their families and friends. Dean Lin will also introduce our special guest for today's program.
Thank you, Mitch. Welcome, everyone. At every Phase 2 commencement ceremony at Tufts, it is tradition for a dean to offer a few words of wisdom. Instead of doing that today, I want to answer a question I think many of you are asking and share a few observations about what I admire most in our Tufts students. The question I shall answer is, who is she and why is she here speaking today? As Professor McVeigh mentioned, my name is Yushan Lin. Although most of my students know me as YSL, the same initials as Yves Saint Laurent, a designer, cosmetics, and clothing company, I usually joke that I try to bring some artistic flair into a chemistry classroom. I am a professor of chemistry and currently serves as a Dean of Academic Affairs for the STEM departments at Tufts. After 15 years at Tufts, I've come to deeply admire qualities in our Tufts undergraduate students and graduates. The first is this: you pursue excellence together. I have taught everything from large general chemistry courses to graduate quantum mechanics. And there is this one course, Physical Chemistry 1, Chem 31, which is dubbed by biochemistry majors as the most difficult class in their major. So the first time I taught it, I thought, this is going to be bad. They're all gonna hate me. But instead, the students arrived ready to work hard. They formed study groups, they shared notes, they challenged each other, they came to office hours not just with their own questions, but with questions from their friends. They looked at me as if I was their captain, begging me to sail them through this horrifying sea of quantum mechanics and thermodynamics. And together we did. Excellence together. This is one of the things I admire most about our Tufts students. Science is built by teams, strengthened by collaborations, and supported by communities. Your education here was never only about mastering technical knowledge. It was also about learning how to think with others, question assumptions, argue respectfully, and remain intellectually curious. And that brings me to another thing I deeply admire about our Tufts students: your commitment to liberal arts. When I was chair of the chemistry department, I had the privilege to sign off degree sheets for our graduating seniors. Every year, I was amazed by all the double majors and minors I see: math, computer science, Spanish, history, psychology, studio art, the list goes on. I also experienced this liberal arts spirit firsthand myself when, during my sabbatical, I decided to sit in on part of this class called Introduction to Western Music. I thought I had good ears. Then the professor announced that for the midterm, she would play a piece of music and we would identify the composer and the historical period. I remember thinking, surely this is when we have a riot. But the students, including two who just took Chem 1 with me, calmly nodded as if that was perfectly normal. So that was the moment I realized I did not have good ears. I just liked cheesy pop songs. But I loved being a student again. I loved struggling to learn something completely outside my field. And it reminds me how valuable it is to remain curious, especially when you are uncomfortable, uncertain, and out of your depth. The fields represented here today increasingly shape the conditions of human life itself. Your work will influence scientific understanding, health, energy, technology, ecosystem, public policy, and the future of the planet. And the scientists and the innovators we are looking for are not only brilliant, they understand that their work has consequences beyond what appears on a screen, in a lab notebook, or in a journal article. They recognize that knowledge does not exist in isolation, but within large human, ecological, planetary, and even cosmic systems. And they feel the responsibility not only to study one piece of the world, but to better understand the larger world their work will shape and serve. That is what your Tufts education has prepared you for. Intellectually curious, intellectually rigorous, deeply curious, and fully engaged with the world around you. Today, as you celebrate this extraordinary achievement, I hope you carry forward two things. First, excellence together. Success is rarely an individual accomplishment. The people sitting beside us today helped us get there. Second, hold on to your liberal arts core. Remain open to wander beyond your expertise. The future is brighter because of your talent, your compassion, and your willingness to work together. Be the light on the hill and help others shine as well. As the poet Rumi wrote, "Set your life on fire, seek those who fan your flames." Throughout your time at Tufts, you have helped fan each other's flames. And many of the people who help ignite and fan the flames are here with us today. Parents, grandparents, siblings, kids, partners, families, professors, mentors, and friends. Let us thank the people who encouraged us, believed in us, and supported us throughout the way. So, go set your life on fire, and know that everyone here today and all of us at Tufts will continue to fan your flames. Congratulations, class of 2026. And now I would like to introduce our honorary guest speaker, Dr. David Ward. As many of you know, Tufts is often called the light on the hill. It seems especially fitting then that we now welcome a scientist whose work has helped illuminate the future of biotechnology and medicine, and who also happens to be the scientific founder of a company called Illumina. We are honored to welcome this afternoon's commencement speaker, pioneering scientist, gifted educator, accomplished entrepreneur, and the 2026 Tufts University honorary degree recipient, Dr. David Ward. Many of you heard earlier today at the university-wide ceremony that from 1981 to 2017, Dr. Ward called Tufts his academic home. During his time here, he pioneered technologies that transformed genetic analysis and helped lay the foundation for many of today's high-throughput sequencing platforms. Today, Dr. Ward is a professor at Harvard Medical School, where his research focuses on developing innovative diagnostic technologies for diseases, including cancer and neurodegenerative diseases. He is also the scientific founder of Illumina and Quanterix, and his work has been recognized with numerous honors, including the National Medal of Technology and Innovation. But what I admire most about David is not only his remarkable scientific accomplishments. I was a junior faculty member when David was here at Tufts, and he was incredibly supportive of me and everyone, and he has continued to do so. No matter how busy he is, he responds with kindness, warmth, generosity, and genuine willingness to help others to succeed. To me, this says as much about who he is as his many scientific accomplishments. And I think that combination, intellectual brilliance paired with generosity and humanity, is exactly the kind of example we hope our graduates will carry forward into the world. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. David Ward.
Thank you, Dean Lin, Yushan, distinguished faculty. Good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations to all the graduates, to your parents, to your siblings, grandparents, great-grandparents, friends, and other family members who are here on this glorious day, particularly this afternoon with a little bit of a breeze. 2 weeks ago, I attended a conference about amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS for short, where the opening speaker was an ALS patient. One of my lab's major research projects is in neurodegenerative diseases, as you heard. It's typical to have a patient give the opening talk at one of these conferences, to remind those in attendance that the research we are carrying out is urgent. This particular speaker was formerly a highly accomplished and successful business executive, but the disease had progressed to where he could no longer walk or talk. He arrived on stage via an electric wheelchair, and he proceeded to look at the audience while a synthesized voice spoke the words of a speech that he had crafted using his gaze several days before. The 10-minute speech probably took him several days to prepare. One could see the emotion on his face as his words were read. Tears flowed at certain parts of his presentation, and his wife had to come onto the stage to wipe the tears from his cheeks, which caused even more tears to flow, both his and those attending the conference. But there was incredibly good news presented at the meeting that gave everyone hope. This devastating disease is beginning to yield to therapies. A new drug called tofersen has been shown to slow progression and even lead to some improvements in the symptoms of ALS in a small set of patients. Those patients have a specific genetic mutation. Think about the implications of what I just said, this last statement. We can now analyze the genetics of individual patients and target therapies only to those individuals who will benefit from this drug. Realizing this capability was not even a dream 30 years ago. It required a deep understanding of the underlying genetic defect and the pathway that is affected, how that defect causes ALS, identifying a molecule that can interfere with this aberrant pathway, and many other incredible discoveries and technologies that led to the successful approval of this drug. Unfortunately, tofersen is only effective in 2% of ALS patients with this mutation. 98% of ALS patients who do not have this mutation continue to degenerate and die. This past week, I was in London at the University of Cambridge at a meeting sponsored by the Gates Foundation to discuss how common blood tests combined with AI can be used to facilitate diagnostics, for example, pregnancy complications and various blood disorders such as iron deficiency. The Gates Foundation aims to democratize these advances to enable precision healthcare for low and middle income countries. This capability will transform healthcare both domestically and globally. Moving away from healthcare, we're experiencing a revolution in battery technologies. There are now electric cars that can travel 600 miles on a single charge. There have recently been demonstrations of solving highly complex problems using quantum computers. Absolutely astounding. But with all these advances, there are tremendous challenges ahead. Millions of children die unnecessarily each year from infectious diseases such as malaria, TB, and dengue. We don't worry about those in this country. We lose millions to cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, and infectious diseases every year. These are challenges that you, as graduates with degrees in physics, chemistry, biology, environmental sciences, climate sciences, can help solve. Microplastics pollute our oceans and air. Those of you graduating in environmental and earth and climate sciences can help solve this problem. Energy demand and power data centers and the transition to electricity from fossil fuels requires innovation. I could spend the entire allotted time describing all of our collective challenges, as well as the exciting opportunities that require attention. Graduates, Whether you are receiving a degree in biology, chemistry, physics, biochemistry, astronomy, environmental studies, earth and climate studies, sciences, or another scientific discipline, your expertise is essential to solve these problems. I learned many years ago that making scientific discoveries or developing technologies isn't a guarantee they will be adopted. When I invented the technology that enabled pervasive genetic testing, it required engineers, financial experts, sales and marketing people, clinicians, business leaders, many others, a true team effort to make sure that the technology found its way to where it eventually made impact. Your science training alone is insufficient. You will need to work with social scientists, policy experts, lawyers, politicians, journalists, and others to guarantee there is adequate funding, public support, and regulatory and implementation strategies to ensure that these technological and scientific advances are not just academic exercises and remain relegated to the laboratory. Your liberal arts Tufts education will help you navigate these challenges as you enter the next phase of your career. You'll be surprised at how classes you took here that you thought were just distribution requirements will end up enriching both your personal and professional lives. My comments highlight just a few of the opportunities and challenges that confront our world that you, as scientists, have the skills to address. Whether you directly enter the workforce now or choose to enter a graduate or professional program for further study, you're poised to contribute to solving these problems. But there are obstacles. The political climate in the US is anti-science. Anti-vaxxers, social media, funding cuts, pushbacks against diversity and equity, misinformation and disinformation are genuine threats to US leadership in science and to our economy. We cannot capitulate to attacks on science. As scientists, you have a responsibility to engage with your families, friends, and the public to explain how science works and help them understand the scientific evidence to correct this misinformation. I'm optimistic that science will prevail. It's a global effort, and if the US doesn't take the lead, others will. When I used to teach undergraduates here, I always asked freshmen why they were going into science. The most common response was they saw science as a vehicle for helping to change the world. I hope that you continue to retain that idealism. Don't become jaded or frustrated by the present political landscape. Don't let the vagaries of life get in the way of this noble mission. Whether you can change the world or not, keep trying. It's the effort that matters. All commencement addresses leave the audience with some pieces of advice. So it's beholden upon me to continue this tradition. I have 4 tidbits. First, speak up. Be honest. Speak to power. True leaders respect honesty and appreciate people with different opinions. Don't be afraid to tell your supervisor, your boss, your teachers if you disagree with them. But don't just disagree with them or criticize. Provide an alternative. Second, don't play it safe. Take risks and follow your passion. Parents, please tune out for a few minutes because what I'm about to say is aimed at the graduates. When I was in college, I was a pre-med student. But I found I was really good at organic chemistry. In fact, at the University of Michigan, where I did my undergraduate work, 800 kids in organic chemistry, I got 100% on the exams. The second highest grade was 82. I had to wait in the hall to make sure that nobody saw me picking up that exam. When I decided to pursue a PhD in chemistry, my parents weren't thrilled because it didn't fit with what their view of what I should become. But the discoveries made in my laboratory have benefited millions of patients, many more than I ever would have been able to treat as a physician. Was this a result I could have predicted? Absolutely not. I'm not saying don't attend medical school. I'm saying follow your path. Third, take the long-range view. You're young. Explore. Try different things. Don't expect to be a CEO next year. Spend time gaining the experience, training, education needed to genuinely be successful in your chosen career. If you don't get your dream job next year, do something different. Something interesting to you. Get out of your comfort zone. As I and your parents and grandparents will acknowledge, things will change. These days, change seems to be the rule. So maybe taking a pause, doing something different, isn't a bad idea. Fourth, this is important. Be in the moment. Put down your phones. Keep them away from the table at meals. Look people in the eyes and pay attention to what they say. Every conversation is an opportunity to learn, engage, and even influence. To review, speak up, don't play it safe, take the long-range view, be in the moment. I want to close by providing some perspective on technology, because I know there is considerable angst about how AI will affect your future. We heard this from our commencement speaker earlier. There will likely be tremendous shifts in the workforce as AI becomes integrated into business, healthcare, and many other aspects of our lives. When I was in college, I used these things called punch cards to program the university's mainframe computer as part of my computer science course, which was a new course. There were things called calculators in the library, the size of typewriters. Oh yeah, what's a typewriter? About this big. After I graduated, handheld calculators offered by Texas Instruments and Hewlett-Packard were introduced, and there were huge controversies about whether to allow them into the classroom, as there were concerns that students would no longer learn how to do arithmetic. Today, the same concern exists about AI. It's called de-skilling. Word processors, personal computers, email, the internet, cell phones, all followed in my career with fears that each of these technologies would cause tremendous job losses and shifts to society. When my parents were young, they didn't have refrigerators, television sets, cars, air conditioners, fast food. We can't stop the march of technologies. Things will work out. You, as science graduates, are poised to help the world use these tools and develop new ones that will make the world a better place for your generation and for generations to follow. Embrace this moment. As I was crafting this address on my return flight from London on Thursday night, I was reading one of my scientific journals when I stumbled upon a book review by Alex Gomez Marin, a Spanish academic. It was about a completely different topic, but I was struck by the following sentence that reflects my message to you today. quote, "The future is not a train to wait for, but rather a canvas we co-create individually and collectively," unquote. Let us work together as both individuals and as the power of many to paint a canvas that reflects our most ambitious ideals. In closing, I pose this question as both a challenge and an inspiration to all the graduates and all members of this audience here today. How do you wish to be remembered? Congratulations, graduates. You all have a bright future ahead. I'm excited to see the world you helped create. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean Lin and Dr. Waltz, for those powerful words. Dr. Waltz, it's great to have you back. We will now recognize graduates for the degrees of Doctor of Philosophy and Masters of Science. In a few moments, I will ask graduate students in attendance to rise and proceed single file to stage left. That's your right, my left. Line up in a single file on the stairs and straight down the aisle one by one. You will hand your marching card to Professor Turner, who will read your name. As your name is called, please cross the stage to greet me, your thesis advisor, or the chair of your department. As you greet them, the photographer will take your picture. Once your photograph is taken, please proceed to the ramp on stage right, then return to your seat in the audience. Faculty members and officials on stage, there's plenty of room to come forward and offer personal congratulations to any student during the ceremony. Audience members, please hold your applause until the last student receives their degree. I will give the signal when it's time to applaud. At this time, all graduate students, please rise and walk to stage right.
Valentina Latore, PhD in Physics and Astronomy. Advisor, Anna Sajina.
Galaxy and black hole evolution across cosmic time with self-organizing maps in large surveys.
Carter Mulford Gustin, PhD in Physics and Astronomy. Advisor, Gary Goldstein.
Quantum simulation of renormalized quantum field theory Hamiltonians.
Ian Descamps, PhD in Physics, Physics Education. Advisor, David Hammer.
Agency and scientific practice in instructional physics lab.
William Andrew Simon, PhD in Physics. Advisor, Peter Lau.
Numerical resource estimation for early fault-tolerant Hamiltonian simulation.
Imani McDonald, PhD in Chemistry and Biotechnology. Advisor, Joshua Kritzer.
Minimal N-methylated and stapled peptide ligands for the autophagy protein GABARAP.
Nicolette Majori, PhD in Chemistry. Advisor, Ira Kaspari.
Learning assistant facilitation practices.
Tin Pham, PhD in Chemistry. Advisor, Rebecca Shack.
A chemical mechanistic path leads the way to cellular argpyrimidine.
Kastrui Lele, PhD in Biology. Advisor, Benjamin Wolf.
Pairwise interactions in microbial community assembly and evolution. Insights from theory, simulations, and experiments.
Are we done with PhDs?
Still doing PhDs, yep. No one else? Okay. Masters.
We are going with masters?
Mhm.
Yeah. David Gibson, Masters in Biology. Isabella Arabia, Masters in Biology. Meredith Ridley Brodos, Masters in Biology. Helena Tardif, Masters in Chemistry. Gabriel Molnar, Masters in Biology. Nicolas Alejandro Cordova Lore, Masters in Biology. Becca Rose Spacier, Masters in Physics and Astrophysics. Veronica Pratt, Masters in Physics and Astrophysics. Tess Cleantis, Masters in Physics and Astrophysics. George Carson, Masters in Physics and Astrophysics. Aidan Morehouse, Masters in Physics. Garrett Fogarty, Masters in Biology. Khalid Al-Rabi, Masters in Biology. Kai Lashat Lem, Masters in Biology. Sophia Valak, Masters in Biology. Brianna Tiffany Labonte, Masters in Biology. Anika Shuare, Masters in Biology. Justin Ford, Masters in Biology. Jawahir Noor, Masters in Biology. Lilia Goncharova, Masters in Biology. Eugene Kitahara, Masters in Biology. Grace Elizabeth Miller, Masters in Biology. Lauren Powell, Masters in Biology. Hannah Zarum, Masters in Biology. Atin Mukesh Patel, Masters in Biology. Rodra Sanjay Takar, Masters in Biology.
Okay, please join me in a round of applause to recognize these accomplishments of these students. We will now recognize undergraduate students who have completed a senior honors thesis. This requires a student to devote considerable time to laboratory, field, or theoretical research during their entire senior year. Students also interact with faculty members and summarize their research with a thesis document and presentation. We, the faculty, love teaching students about the natural world, and we take special pride when a student adds to our collective knowledge through their own independent research. That is what these undergraduate researchers have accomplished. We will now read the names of students who have completed a senior honors thesis. Students, when your name is called, please stand in place to be recognized. Audience members, as always, please hold your applause until the last student name is called. I'll give you a big signal when it's time to applaud.
Isla Barmby, Biology. Advisor Brian Lynn. Jack Brueggemann, Biology. Advisor David Kaplan. Shoshana Daly, Biology. Advisor Sarah Hengel. Meg Frederick, Biology. Advisor Mike Romero. Juliana Golembeski, Biology. Advisor Benjamin Wolf. Camille Hu, Biology. Advisor Peter Joe. Alex Quat Sherwood, Biology. Advisor Eric Titel. Trey Lawrence, Biology. Advisor Andrew Camilli. Molly Mahar, Biology. Advisor Alfredo Hernandez. Sevilla Mast, Biology. Advisor Sergey Mirkin. Kenan Mushayan Debu, Biology. Advisor Michael Chen. Andrew Ng, Biology. Advisor Sam Watras. Kiara Rogers, Biology. Advisor Mimi Kao. Jishnu Stephan, Biology. Advisor David Kaplan. Zachary Towley, Biology. Advisors Jeff Smith and Tyler Jacks. Annika von Schuler-Ames, Biology. Advisor Carl Munger. Ada Yu, Biology. Advisor Howard Chen. Yu Chan Zhao, Biology. Advisor Chao Bing Shu. Nikita Bhatt, Chemistry. Advisor Krishna Kumar. Brett Waldman, Chemistry. Advisor Krishna Kumar. Juliet Baker, Earth and Climate Sciences. Advisor Rebecca Jackson. Cameron McLeod, Earth and Climate Sciences. Advisor Jonah Block Johnson. Hussam Adam, Physics and Astronomy. Advisor Mark Hertzberg. Max Ammons, Physics and Astronomy. Advisor Anna Sajina. Robert Bush, Physics and Astronomy. Advisor Christoph Silva. Andrew Korkus, Physics and Astronomy. Advisor Anna Sajina. Konstantin Mosley, Physics and Astronomy. Advisor Tim Atherton.
In spite of careful checking, it is possible that we have missed the name of a student present here today who completed a senior honors thesis. If this is the case, please stand and be recognized. All right, here's your sign. Please join me in giving a round of applause for these dedicated young researchers. Okay, researchers, you may be seated. Students who earned awards from the School of Arts and Sciences received recognition when the awards were announced in April. We will now recognize undergraduate students who have won awards from the departments of Biology, Chemistry, Earth and Climate Sciences, Physics and Astronomy, and the Environmental Studies program. Students, when your name is called, please stand in place to be recognized. Audience members, please hold your applause until the last student name is called.
The Amos Emerson Dolbear Scholarship, Yongshi Zhang. Hobbs Knight Prize Scholarship, Emmett Hamilton, Toki Nishikawa. Harry Bernheim Award, Isabella Dresek. Thomas Harrison Carmichael and Emily Leonard Carmichael Prize Scholarship, Mahin Ali, Megan Frederick, Gabriel Stein, Kaylee Ines Takaoka. Lily Glidden Award, Kaylee Ines Takaoka. Robert Nichols Scholarship Prize, Zachary Miller and Bella Silverman. Charles Stern Scholarship Prize, Michael Rodriguez. Margaret Durkee Angel and Henrietta Brown Durkee Scholarship, Nikita Bhatt, Carly Grossman, and Callie Rack. Nancy Anderson Award for Sustainability, Brianna Arce. James Hume Field Geology Scholarship Prize, Cameron MacLeod, Juliet Baker, Stella Bessir. The Durkee Scholarships, Nikita Bhatt, Carly Grossman, Kat Siklas, Jake Lanier, Jasmine Sun, Noah Novick, Maddie Flynn, and Isaac Chomsky.
In spite of careful checking, it is possible that we missed the name of a student who was awarded a department-wide award. If you are such a student, please stand and be recognized. If you have not yet received your award, please visit Dowling Hall sometime in the coming week to collect it. And now, please join me in a round of applause for these award-winning students. Okay, you may be seated. Now it is time for us to recognize graduates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science. In a few moments, the students earning a bachelor's degree will rise one row at a time, starting with the row nearest the stage. Each row of students will then proceed to stage left. One by one, you will hand your marching card to Professor Turner, who will read your name. As your name is called, please cross the stage. Feel free to take your time, smile at the audience, do a little dance. This is your moment. When you are up on stage, do not forget to look out towards the photographer. Once your photograph is taken, please proceed to the ramp on stage right, then return to your seat in the audience. Faculty members and officials, there is plenty of room stage right to come forward and offer personal congratulations to any student during the ceremony. Audience members, please hold your applause until the last student receives their degree. We'll applaud heartily when we're all finished.
Ella Sanders, Biology and Economics. Kristen Cheng, BS in Biology. Caitlin Aquilino, Biology. Shivin Kumar, Biology. Varshamitra Dinesh, biopsychology. Shreya Roy Chowdhury, biology and psychology. Julieta Graine, biology. Leslie Correa, biology and mathematics. Andrea Christina O'Hara, biology and biomedical sciences track. Anne Marielle Villanova, biology and biotechnology science track. Reina Santos Wright, biology. Sar Jadu Maturi, biology. Erin Molly Mahar, biology. Aya Balua, biology.
That's my twin!
Yay! Iman Balula, biology and biotechnology science track. Kenan Mushayan Debru, biology. Hugh Barrington Lawrence III, biology. Izuna Obiora, biology. Elsiana Aries, biology. Jared Margolis, biology. James Edward Flack, biology. Warina Ronstedler, biology. Sofia Francisco Solon, biology and community health. Nia Jasmine John, biology. Sarah Brabston, Ancient World Studies and Biology. Jasmine Zoha, Biopsychology. John Bayal, Biology and Studio Art. Perry Labonte, Biology. Yanran Sun, Biochemistry and Psychology. Tianyu Hu, Biology and Education. Leslie Bok, Biology and Psychology. Helena Hartman, Biology. Julianne Elizabeth De Castro, Biology and Environmental Studies. Catherine Julia Parsons, Biology. Lucy Elizabeth Brucker, Biology. Zoe Gregory, Biology and Environmental Studies. Beatrix Huang Salgo, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Andrew Schwab, Biology. Kevin Yang, Biology. Noah Whitney, Biology. Arush Patnala, Psychology and Biology. Sanjana Rao, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Ashna Garikapati, Biology. Zenani Himlin Mayakiso, Biology. Eleanor Louise Kirschner, Biology. Tina Tran, Biology. Anna Tran Lei, Biology, Child Studies and Human Development. Colin Gursky, Biology. AJ Liu, Biology. Jackson Dayton, Biology and Studio Art. Kushi Kori Mahajan, Biology. Kira Elise Rosen, Biology. Elizabeth Donahue, Biology. Grace Ogden, Biology. Jesse Coates Federman, Biology. Susanna Brent, Biology and History. Harrison Vose, Biology and Economics. Thomas Mazzeo, Biology. Gwyneth Stack, Biology and Environmental Studies. Jacqueline Turner, Biology. Jack Everett Grimm Bruggerman, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Jishnu Stefan, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Sophia Liu, Biology and Studio Art. Juliana Golembeski, Biology and Chemistry. Kevin Yu, Data Science and Biology. Cheryl Matsunaga Kurgan, Computer Science and Biology. Claire Choi, Biology. Michelle Wu, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Teresa Lee, Biology. Glenn Liang, Biology and Psychology. Tristan Orion Silverscalt, Biology and Child Studies and Human Development. Ella Barton, Biology. Franklin Caguana, Biology. Casey Brick Lambert, Biology. Dylan Cooker Pfeiffer, Biology. Eliav Malone, Biology. Zachary Murad Tauli, Biology. Alex Trang Quat Sherwood, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Aya Sabur, Biology. Amelia Lee, Biology and Sociology. Sophie Razavi, Biopsychology. Adwit Curley Reddy, Computer Science and Biology. Jason Situ, Biology. Joseph Chaliseri, Biology. Luz del Carmen Pliego Alcantara, Biology. Nicholas Meese, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Malia Leong, Biology. Nikita Goel, Biology and Psychology. Jessica Sun Riley, Biology. Kai James Bornhurst Preminger, Biology. Grace Bornhurst Preminger, Biopsychology. Veronica Mendez Velez, Biology. Sofia Palhoskaya, Biology. Alice Rizkala, Biology. Arden Meyer, Biology. Gabriela Sosa, Biology. Rio Hunter Black, Biology. Becca Jennifer Pinto, Biology. Jennifer Brown, Biology and Theater. Jack Lynch, Biology. Jeffrey Zhu, Biology. Nathaniel Souza, Biology. Ryan Lee Sakyu, Biology. Watana Chen, Biology. Katie Franco, Biology. Juan William Lindenau, Biology. Sienna Armano, Biology. Isla Brooke Barmby, Biology. Anne Sophie Jansen, Biology and Community Health. Philip Lamar, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Rebecca Davis, Biology and Psychology. Annika von Schuler-Ames, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Zoe Sonnenschein, Mathematics and Biology. Anapriya Lula, Biology. Ananya Suryadevara, Biology. Alessia Francesca Galli Zugaro, Biology. Mia Jimenez, Biology and Psychology. Daily Osorio Antigua, Biology. Ilana Smollett, Biology. Alex Lee, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Olivia Winnie Chen, Biology. Jimena Lin, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Angela Iskandar, Biology. Amora Leah Velich, Biology. Awa Hardy, Biology. Lauren Horita, Biology. Grace Liu, Biology. Yoshin Ma, Biology. Abigail Jung, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Jonathan Rodriguez Amaya, Biology. Pablo Tamberlin, Biology and Environmental Studies. Francesca Plezival, Biology and Child Study and Human Development. Vivian Sophie Pedicon, Biology. Maya Zimmers, Biology and Community Health. Taylor Ray Escudero, Biology and Community Health. Shayla Brody Zakashensky, Biology and Environmental Studies. Isabella Nicole Drezek, Biology. Max Nussbaum, Biology. Sam Goldberg, Interdisciplinary Studies. Lily Interligator, Biology and Anthropology. Megan Frederick, Biology. Tarun Shamkumar, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Rishika Wade, Biology and Sociology. Caroline Spar, Biology. Mia Shao, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Eli Micah Boshak, Biology and Psychology. Jordan Harrison Port, Biology and Community Health. Dominic Swagdes, Biology. Nicholas Noaes Clemenzi, Biology. Elizabeth Hannah Gershaw, Biology. Emily Charest, Biology. Zara Iman Ahmed, Biology and Economics. Ike Wahome, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Bruno Selim Ziad Tadmouri, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Katarina Rahal da Gama Lobadecha, Biology and Biotechnology Science Track. Nathaniel Eugene Buettner, Classics and Biotechnology Science Track. Stephanie Woodbury, Biopsychology. Mason Schultz, Biopsychology and Biotechnology Science Track. Henry Robert Perkins, Biopsychology. Caitlin Perucci, Biopsychology. Arya Ma, Biopsychology and Studio Arts. Amalia Steinberg, Biopsychology. Ada Yu, Biopsychology. Sarah Norris, Biopsychology. Isabella Miela Okada, Biopsychology. Lauren Grace Yaltekin Sleet, Biopsychology. Molly Catherine Schaefer, Biopsychology and Biomedical Sciences Track. Sophie Nguyen, Biopsychology, Science, Technology, and Society. Natalia Fierres, Biopsychology. Carson Lynn Comishane, Biopsychology. Jillian Risa Zolot, Biopsychology. Marina George Ibrahim, Biopsychology. Salam Nardos Tesfaye, Biopsychology. Ian Williams, Biopsychology. Mark Damian Grace Musad, Biopsychology. Michael Killa, Biopsychology. Mahin Ali, Biopsychology and Biotechnology Science Track. Diana Nguyen, biopsychology. Sydney Bay Cohen, biopsychology. Whitney Sarah Cohen, biochemistry. Joshua Gabriel Meininger, biopsychology. Noah Nowick, biochemistry and biotechnology science track. Daniel Persak, biochemistry and biotechnology science track. Shoshana Daly, biochemistry. Eugene Yoon, biochemistry. Emma Tonies, biochemistry. Emma Lyle, biochemistry. Luca Shane Arminiana O'Neill, biochemistry and biotechnology science track. Tamara Hook, biochemistry and biotechnology science track. Tuisha Goyle, biochemistry and biotechnology science track. Liliane Iglesias Ledon, biochemistry. Rachel Dory, biochemistry. Sophia Kramel, biochemistry. Sevilla Mast, biochemistry and biotechnology science track. Jonathan Samuel, biochemistry. Jackson Patrick Reginald Riley, biochemistry. Henry Hurt Rensko, biochemistry. Owen Masur, biochemistry. Lion Kim, biochemistry and psychology. Ni Bevin Dowling Guyer, biochemistry. Tal Brayman, biochemistry. Brett McLeod Waldman, biochemistry. Ivan Lee, biochemistry. Andrew Ng, biochemistry and mathematics. Andrew Zheng, biochemistry. Aurora Cheng, biochemistry. Jasmine Chantawang, biochemistry. Devin Day Ho, biochemistry. Sophie Marguerite Steedley, biochemistry. Charita Bavirasetti, biochemistry and psychology. Jarvis Joe, biochemistry. Ryan Alcori, biochemistry and clinical psychology. Dylan Higgins, biochemistry. Yuchen Zhao, biochemistry. Jessica Jin, biochemistry. Ryan Choi, biochemistry. Kylie Apichai De Jurum, biochemistry. Akhilesh Chopra, biochemistry. Hannah Sanu Yu, biochemistry. Darvla Dolan, biochemistry and biotechnology science track. Jess Shi, biochemistry. Erica Wang, biochemistry and biotechnology science track. Camille Hu, biochemistry. Nadia Calder, biochemistry. Luke Han, Biochemistry. Alicia Junaina, Biochemistry. Anish Gugilam, Biochemistry. Shil Patel, Chemistry. Arlo Maslan, Biochemistry. Corey Title, Computer Science and Chemistry. Isaac Erickson Chomsky, Chemistry. David Philip Barrow, Chemistry. Esmeralda Jasmine Moharo, Chemistry. Max Panzer, Chemistry and French and Francophone Cultural Studies. Konstantin Katsoris, Chemistry. Jake Davis Lanier, Chemistry. Charles Stephen McIntyre, Chemistry and Economics. Christine Wong, Chemistry. Carly Grossman, Chemistry, Mathematics, and Physics. Nikita Bhatt, ACS Certified Chemistry and Biotechnology Science Track. Hadley Alexandra Nunn, ACS Certified Chemistry. Anya Buan Peterson, Chemistry and History. Julian Michael Bubniak, Chemistry and Economics. Rebecca Rios Lasso, Chemistry. Kelly Reck, ACS Certified Chemistry. Catherine Ziklas, ACS Certified Chemistry. Megan Brody Willis, ACS Certified Chemistry. Jaeyoon Jung, ACS Certified Chemistry and Cognitive Brain Science Studies. Boyeon Jung, ACS Certified Chemistry. Andrew Sobol Korkus, Astrophysics. Isabella Ward, Astrophysics and Studio Art. Max Edelman, Mathematics and Astrophysics. Max Ammons, Astrophysics. Robert Nicholas Bush, Physics and Mathematics. Daniel Michael Harrington, Physics and Mathematics. Ryan Raikun Luo, Physics and Mathematics. Andy Zhang, Physics and Science and Technology and Society. Alex Cheng, Psychology and Physics. Leo Liu, Physics and Studio Art. William Godfrey Zhang, Physics and Mathematics. Jake Pandina, Physics. Declan Thomas Golden, Physics. Dake Woodrow Lasala, Physics. Luke Miller, Physics. Konstantin Mosley, Physics. Trevor Wallace, Applied Physics. Oren Pollock Slager, Applied Physics. Margaret Olson, Applied Physics and Mathematics. Anuhea Elliott, Quantitative Economics and Environmental Studies. Alexander Lang Volstead Peterson, Philosophy and Environmental Studies. Brianna Kimberly Arce, Biopsychology and Environmental Studies. Ingrid Elena Manson Gonzalez, Applied Environmental Studies and Civic Studies. Samara Haynes, International Relations and Environmental Studies. Michaela Loughran, Philosophy and Environmental Studies. Apire Japora Chigabatia, Economics and Environmental Studies. Coco Noel Genevieve Williams, Applied Environmental Studies. Avery Newcomer, Psychology and Environmental Studies. Hussam Adam, Physics. Madison Elizabeth Hagberg, Environmental Studies. Hadley Elizabeth Keefe, Applied Environmental Studies. Maddox Lewis Weiss, Applied Environmental Studies. Rohin Gast, Philosophy and Environmental Studies. Penelope Kruger Kopp, Applied Environmental Studies. Liliana Bukov, Applied Environmental Studies. Mayron Brace, Economics and Environmental Studies. Lila Deanne Parker, Applied Environmental Studies. Jessica G, Sociology and Environmental Studies. Alexa Datner, Applied Environmental Studies. Amelia Arabo, Applied Environmental Studies. Juliana Dunmi Lee, Applied Environmental Studies. Justin Drew Solis, Political Science and Environmental Studies. Serena Harold, Applied Environmental Studies, Spanish major in Cultural Studies. Jacqueline Olivia Sastry, Spanish major Cultural Studies, Environmental Studies. Blight Amelie Eldert, Biology and Environmental Studies. Alexander Emerson Ort, Political Science and Environmental Studies. Sydney Keiko Beer Tyler, International Literary Visual Studies and Environmental Studies. Madison Klaus, Applied Environmental Studies. Ruby Elena Huron Carson, Applied Environmental Studies. Cameron Campbell McLeod, Climate Science and Environmental Studies. Zachary Miller, Climate Science. Michael Jason Rodriguez, Climate Science and Environmental Studies. Bella Silverman, Climate Science and English. Stella Bessir, Climate Science. Juliet Baker, Climate Science and International Relations. Tianji Liu, Environmental Geology and Studio Arts. Clara de Andrade Leitch, Applied Environmental Studies. Gawon Yu, Biology and Community Health.
Good. Okay. All right, audience, it is my incredible pleasure to present to you these incredible students, the graduates of the class of 2026. Before we conclude the ceremony, please let's have a round of applause for Professor Duren Turner, who did such a good job reading all of your names. Okay, we're almost there. At this point, I would like to call on all of the students to stand and applaud your parents, family members, loved ones, pets, and friends who provided the financial and emotional support to make your achievements possible. I would also at this time like to thank the following individuals who were extremely helpful in organizing this celebration: Kimberly Andreasen, Aaron Buckley, Michael Dwar, Megan Guldenzoff, Elizabeth Hammond, Elizabeth Hurley, Sine Croach, Catherine Liu, Anne Maxime, Marianne O'Connell, Karen O'Hagan, and Lily Sandholm. Thank you. All right, we are very close to the end of this ceremony. Once it is finished and the recessional music begins, I ask that the audience remain seated until first the stage party and then graduates have fully recessed. Graduates, after the stage party, please recess one row at a time, starting with the row nearest the stage, walking back down the center aisle. Thank you for your cooperation, and please remember to take all of your belongings before leaving the green. After today's ceremony, many faculty will be gathered by the cannon back there. If you want to stop by for pictures, you can find us there. I'd like to conclude with a quote from renowned British broadcaster and natural historian Sir David Attenborough, who recently celebrated his 100th birthday. He highlights what has driven his lifelong work and passion. And it's this: it's an understanding of the natural world and what's in it as a source of not only great curiosity, but great fulfillment. Speaking on behalf of the university, your department, the faculty, and the staff with whom you interacted each and every day, we sincerely hope that every one of you continues to have the opportunity to feed your curiosity, follow your passion, and achieve great fulfillment and joy in your personal journey. Remember us, and remember that you will always be a Jumbo. Class of 2026, go forth and be the light on the hill.
Continents get jealous over me. You can see me 3D overseas. If you know me, then you know where to find me. Off in the Bahamas with a bad one behind me. Now live it up, live it up, live it up. Baby, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. And we gon' boom, boom, all around the world. Boom, boom, go get it, girl. Boom, boom, that's the way we like to play. We gon' boom, boom, all around the world. Boom, boom, go get it, girl. Boom, boom, that's the way we like to play. Waiting for you to shake it and shake it, make it or take it. The point is we made it. Quarterback the game, call us Tom Brady, and it's not our fault that we have all the ladies, but it's hard to see these ladies when your middle name's Equator. All around the globe, matter of fact, see you later. They're great, we're greater, we're world dominators, and we're also some smooth operators, and we gon'